Mayor, it is 7 o'clock.
Okay, very good. Welcome everyone. Tonight is our monthly council meeting. This would be for March 2021. And we as always begin with roll call. Whenever you're ready, Elizabeth.
Commissioner Donnie Carter,
Here.
Commissioner Nina Forsyth,
Here.
Commissioner Kevin Grove,
Here.
Commissioner Adam Ritchie,
Here.
and Mayor Robert Flanagan.
I am here, Elizabeth. All right, moving to approval of the agenda. Need a motion and a second to approve the agenda as written.
I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
Moving second. Are we all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
And also approval of the minutes from the past meetings from February.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the previous meetings.
Second.
Moving second twice, so I think we're good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We have Jason Keeling with us tonight with the American Red Cross. I'll let him introduce himself. Maybe if I can find him. There we go.
Are we on?
You are on.
You're live.
Okay. Can you see me as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Well, hello, Mayor, city officials, council members. I'm Jason Keeling. I'm Executive Director of the Allegheny Highlands Chapter of the American Red Cross. Hello from currently stormy Morgantown. So if I all of a sudden go off the screen, you'll know this lightning in the background has affected it. But anyway, so I'll just be brief. Appreciate the opportunity to be considered. This proclamation is one that throughout the years, starting with President FDR, the Red Cross has been recognized in March, and of course at the federal level, and then also by municipalities and counties, just as a way of recognizing the work that we're doing. And so I'm just here to let you know that the Red Cross is serving your community. We may not have bricks and mortar there, but we are there to do several things. Of course, to respond to disasters, and the most common disaster that we respond to in your community is home fires. In the county, that's the best data that I have. Last year, we responded to 22 home fires. And so we work to make sure that those impacted individuals have their immediate needs met, that they have food, clothing, that if any medical needs that they have, prescriptions, eyeglasses, etc., we get those things to them at no charge. And we also, of course, provide emotional support to them. We work to be the best part of, what's arguably one of their worst days. And then we, of course, collect life-saving blood. Last year in the county, we collected approximately 2,000 units of blood. Each one of those units can save up to 3 individuals. And of those blood collections, approximately 25% came from the city of Frostburg. And then we have our service to the armed forces. In the county, we provided about 75 different case services. A lot of people don't realize that we actually do provide some services to active duty and veteran members of the armed forces. Examples of that include what we call our emergency communication services. So we are actually responsible by the U.S. Department of Defense if there is a service member who is deployed in another part of the world or the country. We're the agency that is responsible for verifying there's an emergency where that service member should be released for a period to attend to their families most often. And again, we did 75 cases in the county last year. And then lastly, of course, we also provide CPR and first aid training, and perhaps some of you on the call have received that as well. So again, I am in Morgantown, but we do dispatch to the area for those different items. We did a restructuring in April of last year, and you probably would have seen me in person sooner, but of course COVID happened. And so here we are still on Zoom, but nonetheless, appreciate the opportunity to say hello, and perhaps in the future have an opportunity to say hello in person. So thanks for this resolution adoption, and you'll be joining the county commission and the city of Cumberland, who've already adopted such. So we appreciate it.
Very good, sir. Thank you for the background on the Red Cross. That's some things that I didn't know, and I'm sure it's good information for us all to know. And hope you weather your storm okay up there, and you don't need the Red Cross tonight.
Looks like we're going to be okay.
Very good. Thanks for joining us this evening. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Jason. The next item, Mayor, is the Arbor Day Proclamation. For many years now, the city has celebrated Arbor Day, and that is a requirement to be certified as a Tree City USA. So we did just receive notification, and I'm kind of taking Becky Wilson, our DNR foresters, a little bit of her attention or her limelight away. But we did receive notification that we were certified as a Tree City USA again last year. Because of COVID, we're not planning a large Arbor Day celebration with students and things like that, like we have in the past. But on Thursday, April 8th, this would proclaim Arbor Day in the city of Frostburg. And on that day, we have planned at 12:30 at the Municipal Center lot that the Shade Tree Commission will gather and plant a couple trees at the new Municipal Center. And maybe even raise the Tree City USA flag on the new flagpole there.
There we go.
So if anyone would like to come out for that, it won't be overly exciting, but still showing, the city's commitment to trees. But there's the proclamation for your consideration, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate that. Okay. Moving on, Mayor and Commissioners' reports from the month. We need a motion and a second to accept those.
I'll make a motion to accept the monthly reports.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And since Adam and Nina have elected me, I'd like to introduce our new city engineer, Mr. Rob Shoemake. Rob started with us this past Monday, or this Monday that just passed. I was going to go into some long story about after a very arduous nationwide search. Here we found a Frostburg boy. So, but do want to also reach out and let everyone know that Rob is working under the guise of Chris Hovatter until Chris will leave us at the end of April. And we certainly appreciate Chris staying on with us for these 6 very, very crucial and important weeks. So I'm going to let Rob by Zoom introduce himself. Most of us on the council know Rob, or we got to meet him at this point, but welcome aboard, Mr. Shoemake. If you have a couple words of wisdom you'd like to add, go right ahead.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be on board and working closely with Chris over the next 6 weeks to get up to speed on all the CSO projects and everything that we have going on. I've known Mike Femi for several years, so I'm very comfortable working with him, and Elizabeth has been great, and it's been a great week for me. I'm very excited to be here.
Very good, Rob. We wish you all the luck in the world. We're all here to help you.
Thank you.
Along the way, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, very good.
I just
Thanks,
like
sir.
to
Good,
I just
good,
like
ma'am.
to add that I'm happy to welcome you, Rob. The only difficulty being that my husband's name is Rob, so I will have to make clear which Rob I'm talking about sometimes.
You can call me Robert. That's fine.
Just not
Thank you.
Bubba.
Adam, anything?
Yeah, just glad to have you, Rob.
Thank you.
appreciate it's going to be a tough 6 weeks for you here, just trying to take everything in, but I think you're up to the task. So
Thank you. I appreciate it.
yep.
All right, very good. Thank you all. Liz, Frostburg Municipal Center update.
I asked Commissioner Grove to handle that one for
There you
me.
go. Okay.
Oh,
Kevin, it's all yours.
okay. Obviously, the building is progressing well. There have been some delays, a lot of them caused by the COVID situation. Materials were delayed because of things like that, but it is progressing well. And we thought it would be a good idea, since we've waited this long, to wait till the weather clears a little bit before we actually move in, so that to get some of the paving done and things like that. But barring any more problems, the last week of April, we're going to move in, and Liz promised that. but Chief Costello and I have been regulars at the building, and it's really nice. It's an impressive building, so we ought to be proud of it.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
All right. Public hearings, combined sewer overflow. Chris, you got 2 more times to do this. Maybe Chris doesn't want to do it anymore.
You're on mute.
He's on mute.
Chris, you're on mute.
How about now?
There
We're
you
good.
go.
Good.
You missed my joke.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I'm looking forward to retirement, but it's been a real pleasure working for the city, and the community has been great to me. So I really appreciate it and plan to stay around. But let me tell you about the CSO program, which we update each month. In 2001, the state of Maryland placed a consent decree and a court order to eliminate CSOs, which is combined sewer overflows in the Frostburg area. What is a CSO? Well, it's when it rains hard or snow melts, it causes the sanitary sewers, the combined sewers, to overflow and empty into all the nearby streams: Georges Creek, Sand Spring Run, Jennings Run, and Braddock Run. And getting the pollution out of the streams is most important for health and welfare of the community. In 2003, we actually embarked on the projects. It was a 20-year program. At that time, there was 15 overflows. Now we're down to 6. And the 6 that's left is a lot less frequent and less volume. So we're getting there and doing what we need to do. So right now we have several ongoing projects in different stages. Phase 9A, which is Charles Street, it is in its punch list, final stage, and should be completed here as soon as the weather warms up a little bit. Phase 9B, Stoyer Street, is about 32% complete. We are bidding as we speak Phase 9C, which is Bell Street, and the pre-bid on that is March 30th, and the bid opening is April 13th. So we're looking forward to that. Laura Michael tells me that we're very likely to get our next grant for the project Roman numeral 10, which is the wetlands right below McCullough Street in the swampy area that really delivers a lot of dry weather flow also to the sewers. And by eliminating the combined sewer overflows and reducing our rainwater and stormwater getting into the sanitary system, we will also reduce pumping cost and treatment cost. And there's a lot of benefits to it just besides the health benefits. So, the citizens and the businesses of Frostburg can help by eliminating their input of stormwater into the system by taking the downspouts out of the sanitary sewer and either splash blocking them or to the lawn, or putting it in a pipe and getting it to the street or storm sewer. So we're always open here at City Hall for questions. If anybody has questions about our program, feel free to give me a call or Rob in the future, and we'll give you an update and tell you what we're doing. But if anybody has any questions on the council or in the audience here that I can answer now, I'd love to. That's it for today.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, whenever you're ready, Liz, we move to new business then.
First up, Elaine is going to present the draft budget. There are a few things that have come up since last Thursday pertaining to the draft that I wanted to go over quickly before Elaine started her presentation. First, the mayor and I met yesterday with the county administrator to discuss emergency medical services. There was a resolution the mayor and council passed 5 years ago that committed $30,000 for 5 years to the county to keep the ambulance service operations in Frostburg, maintain the building, pay the utilities, those type of things. We did not include that in this year's budget based on that resolution. But after talking with the county administrator, that $30,000 really does support the Frostburg operations. And so I would recommend that between now and the April meeting that we would ask Elaine to budget that in under public safety, and that just be an ongoing commitment to support the county's great expense for emergency medical services.
And we wouldn't need a resolution, a new resolution for that? It would just be part of the budget from year to year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you wanted to do a resolution, I mean, it could be just a year-to-year thing that you evaluate. If you wanted to make another 5-year commitment, you certainly could do a resolution if you direct me to do so.
Yeah, actually, Jason didn't ask for, any more than, can we do this kind of in the idea of like year by year until maybe they can procure more EMS funding. So it's pretty much as Liz just said, pretty much about keeping the building and the maintenance and so on and so forth, keep the lights on there so that they have, a place for the squads and that they can do their training and whatnot.
Uh-huh. Thanks.
And then the other items that I have all pertain to hotel motel tax requests. First, I received a letter in the mail yesterday from Jerry LaFemina as the board president of Savage Mountain Punk Arts, requesting hotel motel tax to support their Savage Mountain Punk Picnic at Hoffman Park, which would be at the end of April. He did apologize for the late date of this letter, but they received the confirmation of their 501c3 status from the IRS later than expected. So they are asking for $750 to bring 10 bands to Hoffman Park, 9 of which will come out of town. These bands and many of our traveling audience will eat in restaurants, stay in our hotels, and enjoy time at the Arts Walk that day. So that is a consideration to be added to your list. Jason Keeling with the American Red Cross was on earlier for the proclamation, and he had asked me when we were arranging that proclamation if the city ever made special allocations. They are in the process of trying to purchase a new vehicle that would service all the blood drives, including the Frostburg blood drive. I told him I think the Frostburg donation location at City Place is one of the premier blood donation locations around. So, really do appreciate their commitment of coming back to Frostburg every 12 weeks. So I would ask you to consider a $2,000 donation to the Red Cross. It would be a one-time thing as part of their fundraising effort for a new $35,000 like utility van. And then since last week as well, Barb Armstrong had reached out to Brian Vogt and me regarding the City Place parking lot, and that the Karen Bingman Memorial Garden. And last summer, because of COVID, there was the like pop-up tent with some chairs put up there for some just outdoor coffee drinking or what have you. And Barb suggested that we would do a small shade structure type pavilion up there with some of the Margaret Bell Foundation money that the Frostburg Foundation has, and then was looking for additional funds. And a suggestion could be to allocate $1,000 of hotel motel tax to support that project. It would be probably a similar structure to what is down at the trailhead, the metal roof, 4 sides, so it looks nice and kind of works with the existing parklet that's there, but then includes some benches, some more permanent seating solutions. So that is $1,000. And then I'll let the mayor talk about a change to the request for the museum.
Thank you, Liz. Basically, I had stopped out last week. I sent you all an email. Request of Joe Williams. And we got talking. We were actually back in the parking lot, and he was pointing out a lot of things that they had been working on, including new spouting, downspouts on the museum. Also, what I regrettably did not realize was that that's where the the Christmas wreaths and whatnot are going to be moved to. That process, I do believe, has begun or will begin very soon to the basement of the convent. And so the museum, to help that deal, they went ahead and contacted the local electrician to come in and rewire the basement and put in new LED lights so that it's bright and safe for the workers to work on the Christmas wreaths. As we all know, them, the upstairs of this building, it provided a service and a space, but it certainly wasn't the best space. So the steps now are only 5 steps versus a floor and a half like we have here currently. So after he went over all that with me, I did ask him about their request and why they'd cut it basically in half. And he pretty much indicated to me that they were trying to take it easy on us, knowing that with COVID and the lack of hotel motel income, they didn't expect that they'd be able to ask for the full amount and receive it. And I just feel as though personally, with the number of volunteers that they currently have, they're probably in a better spot than they've been for a long time. He was telling me about how many gallons of paint they've rolled just over the last couple of months. So they really are getting ready for their reopen. And I think we all agree that it's our history and it's on Main Street. And with what hopefully is going to happen to this building as we move forward, it's just going to be another good draw for our downtown. So if you all were okay with it, I'd like to give them their full normal request so that they can keep moving forward. Anyone have any comment to me?
So it's
Good
not
with
really,
me.
sorry. It's not earmarked for anything in particular, just for like all the various projects that they're undertaking.
Right. Way Joe explained to me, I mean, they've had contracts, like say, come in, take care of the spouting and whatnot. That wasn't cheap. Then doing the work in the basement to make that a safe, good working space. And then the paint, and we all know paint is not cheap. So, I mean, they've been very diligent about when we give the okay that they can open their doors, they want to be ready to do it. So I'd like to be able to say that we help them as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, well, they're an asset that, to our city.
Yes. Everybody else okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
The other 3 ideas I presented, requests, are you agreeable to those as well?
I am. I would also, as far as the shade structure in the Karen Bingman garden, even if it costs a little more, I think just it's important to make it look pretty. I mean, it needs to look nice because, you know, thinking long term, you don't want to be penny pinching and then regret it. You want to have something that's nice and sturdy and usable, and that also ends up being an asset. That place did get quite a bit of traffic during the summer, and I think it will continue to do so. So it makes sense to have a shade structure there.
Yeah,
That's something that looks nice.
from what Barb told me, that parking area is kind of an amenity to the folks that live around there, and you know.
But also
kids
people
will-
who shop at the farmers market, people who go to the coffee shop, you know, people who are just walking around town and want to rest for a bit.
Yep.
It's a good idea.
Yep.
Fine with me.
Okay.
Elaine, you good? At the end of the day, it's up to you. You tell us we can do it or we can't.
We will put the numbers in as you request.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Elaine, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you very much. So last week at the work session, we discussed the draft budget in great detail with the mayor and council. And this evening, I'd like to review the information again briefly for the benefit of the public, and also highlight the utility and tax rates that have been proposed for the next fiscal year. I also want to mention the changes that have been made in the draft budget compared to the version that was presented at the work session last week. And these individual line items were highlighted in yellow on the draft budget detailed. It's a separate attachment to the council meeting. So the budget is based on the best available data that we have, and we're constantly updating and revising the budget as new information is obtained. So the current draft budget is not balanced, but we will present a balanced budget next month at the first reading of the budget ordinance. So first, I'd like to briefly address the utility rates from the schedule of municipal fees. And you can see an excerpt of the water and sewer rates for the fee schedule for the upcoming year. At this point, the rate for the bulk water that's sold to Allegheny County, that rate is still under discussion between the city and the county. We expect that the rate will be between $3.97 and $4.22 per 1,000 gallons, which would be an increase from the current rate of $3.36 per 1,000 gallons. This rate is recalculated every 3 years, so this is the year for that change. All the other consumption rates that are currently proposed are unchanged in the upcoming year. In addition, if you look at the surcharge rates, which is for the CSO surcharge, the water surcharge, and the garbage rates, those also are proposed to remain unchanged in the next year. Also wanted to give you a brief summary of our real estate tax rates over the past 10 years. The assessable base amount that is shown in this table reflects the estimated value of the real property at the time the constant yield rate is set in February each year. This does not necessarily reflect the actual assessable base at the time that billings are generated as of July 1st. So for example, the assessable base last year was estimated to be $341 million. However, the actual assessable base ended up being $348 million as of July 1, 2020. So the assessable base that's predicted for this coming year of $354 million could change by the time we get to July 1. So over the past 10 years, the real estate rate has ranged from 56.65 cents per $100 of assessed value to the current rate of 68 cents per $100 of assessed value. So the proposed rate on which the real estate tax revenue in the draft budget is based is at 70 cents per $100 of assessed value for your discussion last week at work session. So a constant yield rate hearing will be required if the mayor and council plan to adopt any tax rate above the constant yield rate, which is the 66.8 cents per $100 of assessed value. So this hearing would be advertised and would be held on April 15th, 2021 at your next council meeting, which is currently scheduled to be at City Place, if you continue with the plan to have a rate above 66.8 cents. So if we take a look at the condensed summary of the budget by fund and department, it gives you a general overview of the revenues and expenses. If you focus on the net column on the far right side, this indicates if expenses exceed revenues or are less than projected revenues. So the presentation of numbers that are in parentheses reflects that the expenses at this time are greater than predicted revenues. So the citywide budget shortfall at this point in our draft budget process is around $143,000. And as I mentioned before, we will come to a balanced budget by the time we get to the budget ordinance next month. So just to briefly go over some of our draft budget assumptions, we'll start by looking at our revenue assumptions. And in the general fund, if you just move to the next slide, please, Elizabeth. So the draft budget is based on a real estate tax rate, as we already mentioned, of 70 cents for $100 of assessed value. And there's also a proposal to increase the personal property tax rate to $1.50 per $100 of assessed value. And an update in the budget presentation for this week compared to that which you saw at work session, we got updated information from the state of Maryland, which we are now increasing our income tax projection of revenue next year, and also a slight increase in highway use tax. And we're continuing to anticipate some recovery in our hotel motel tax revenue back to pre-COVID levels. When we look at our proprietary funds, which are the water and sewer in particular, we're basing our draft budget on projections of consistent water consumptions for both these funds. The only rate that would change would be the rate for the bulk sales of water to Allegheny County. The other rates would remain the same. We'll continue with CSO projects in the sewer fund, and also we have the project going on of the Centennial Hill Pump Station replacement, for which we do have some grant funding available. We are optimistic, and we can reallocate some CDA loan funds to pay for that project. In our surcharge funds, we do expect a slight decrease in our revenues based on a decrease in billing units that are recalculated each year, but the rate that is charged to the customers for the CSO, water surcharge, and garbage are all projected to remain unchanged in the next budget year. For some of our expense projections, there is a salary increase budgeted currently of approximately 75 cents per hour for all full-time employees. We're predicting slight increases in our health, workers' comp, property, and auto insurance. And there have been some special projects and purchases that have been requested in various departments that you can see itemized in the list. In addition to the draft budget this week, you will see that we have increased the paving budget by $15,000 as requested by the mayor and council at work session last week. And there's also been a few changes in projects that are now reflected in the current version of the draft budget. We have added $8,000 in the recreation department for an additional vehicle. We currently have an employee who uses his personal vehicle to transport supplies to the various city buildings and pavilions. And we're looking at the possibility of obtaining a used vehicle or adding another vehicle to the fleet from Enterprise. That's estimated $8,000. In the street department, we've also added a T-Berry Lane storm drainage project. The anticipated expense would be just over $30,000, but there is some state highway money available as a reimbursement towards this project. And the other change is in the community legacy projects, we had requested funding for facade grants, as well as a grant to be used for 59 East Main. And we have found out that we did not receive the facade grant. And the $100,000 that was requested for 59 East Main, we were only granted 75. So you'll see this change reflected both in the community legacy revenue category in the corporate fund and in the expense line in the community development department. And also we recalculated overhead as necessary as all these expenses changed. So just a quick snapshot comparing expenses from our current fiscal year to the next year for which we're budgeting. In total, our expenses have decreased about $2.5 million. The biggest change being the corporate fund was responsible to fund the project at 37 Broadway. And with the anticipation that will be completed before June 30, you'll see the decrease in the corporate fund expenses for the next year. The other funds are consistent. The main item in the sewer fund continues to be the CSO projects. So then if we continue on, just a snapshot of the expenses by fund, you'll see that the corporate fund and the sewer fund both account for almost 40% of the city's budget, with the water fund and the garbage fund being at a much lower percentage. For our sources of revenue in the corporate fund, you'll see that almost half of the corporate fund revenue comes from real estate taxes. We also have grants and project reimbursements that account for about 10% of the revenue in the corporate fund, and miscellaneous taxes make up the remainder. When we see how these corporate fund revenues are used and we look at it by department, you'll see that public safety is the largest percentage of our corporate fund expenses at just over $2 million. Almost 3/4 of the public safety budget is for salaries and benefits for the employees. It also includes support for the Frostburg Fire Department at around $223,000. Street Department would be the second largest corporate fund expense at about 24% of the budget. Of this, about 30% of the street department budget is for salaries and benefits for employees. We also have $150,000 that's needed for salt and abrasives to cover winter storms. And approximately the same amount, $155,000 each year, is needed to pay for the street lighting. So when we look at the proprietary fund revenues, the proprietary funds have to operate similar to a private for-profit business. So the revenues that they collect have to pay their expenses. Most of the revenues in these funds, the water, sewer, water surcharge, and garbage, come from user charges. The only difference is in the sewer fund, where we have a significant portion of the fund revenue that comes from grants to fund the CSO projects. Just a quick glimpse at our utility fund expenses. You'll see in the water fund, the largest percentage of expenses needed are to run the treatment plant. We have a contract with Maryland Environmental Service. We're in the beginning of a new 5-year contract with them to run the water treatment plant. That's about 42% of the water department expenses. You'll see salaries and benefits are the next most significant portion in the water fund. In the sewer fund, the largest portion of expenses, again, go to our CSO projects. As Chris has described, we have several projects underway and more projects are planned. We also have a significant expense of just over $1 million anticipated for the Sanitary Commission, which that represents the charges for sewage treatment. And in the water surcharge fund, the greatest portion, obviously, in this fund is for debt service. We have principal and interest payments that are due on our loans, and the very small percentage is designated for capital repairs needed at Piney Dam and the water treatment plant. And finally, in the garbage fund, we have salaries and benefits for employees that make up just over half of the budget. The other significant expense needed for the garbage fund is obviously the landfill charges at 31% of the budget, or about $117,000 for the next year. So as we look at our budget preparation schedule, this evening, we are looking for a conclusion by the mayor and council about the tax rate to be proposed for the real estate taxes. Because as I indicated earlier, the constant yield tax rate hearing would be required next month if you do want to continue with the proposed rate of 70 cents per $100 of assessed value. And certainly if there are any questions regarding any of these items, I'd be more than happy to answer the questions. And as we work towards the budget ordinance next month, I can be contacted at any time to address questions by the mayor and council or the public as we work towards a balanced budget.
Thank you, Elaine, very much.
You're welcome.
Liz, do we have any comments in regards to?
There's no public comment, Mayor.
Okay. And we're all good with continuing down the same road we're on right now, so Elaine can finish this up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, Elaine.
Yes.
Keep driving the ship, Elaine.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your input.
Thank you now. All right.
Thank you.
All right, resolution 2021-07.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is the first resolution I have for you tonight. We went over and Bernie Zlomek was available to answer any questions regarding the operating agreement with the Big Savage and Piney Mountain Sportsmen's Clubs. Are two separate entities, and the city of Frostburg, in which they operate public days at the Frostburg range and maintain the range in terms of mowing the grass, the porta pots up there, things like that. It is an amenity for the city as well because our officers are able to go up there and do all of the practice and qualifying that they need to do each year. And I believe Frostburg State Police use it as well. So it is a good arrangement. I'm glad that through many months we were able to work to something that was acceptable to all parties. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion and second to approve resolution 2021-07.
I don't have a question. I just want to comment that the safety measures that have been outlined in the operating agreement, I think are a big plus.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-07.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Was there any public comment on?
No, sir.
Okay, then roll call when you're ready.
Sure. Thank you. Commissioner Donnie Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Nina Forsyth,
Yes.
Commissioner Kevin Grove,
Yes.
Commissioner Adam Ritchie,
Yes.
and Mayor Robert Flanagan.
Yes.
Okay. The next resolution I have for you is resolution 2021-08. I see a typo that I have at 09 on the resolution. I'll fix that. This would approve a lease between the city of Frostburg and James Lashbaugh for the use of the pavilion and the parking area at West End Park. Mr. Lashbaugh was also on the call during your work session. There was one comment that was brought up during the work session regarding the hours of operation not applying to the parking area. Michael Cohen did make that change to clarify that the parking could be used just at times in conjunction with the business. Mr. Lashbaugh was otherwise satisfied with all the provisions of the lease. The city will be able to collect some additional revenue from a pavilion that was very much underutilized since the Moose had closed. And Mr. Lashbaugh is also going to do some maintenance at the park that frees our guys up to mow grass elsewhere in town. That's always a struggle for them, especially come April and May, to keep up with it. So a little bit off the Park and Rec department's plate.
Plus the kids can still sled ride there.
Yes.
That's important.
It is important. Yeah, so I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion in a second to approve resolution 2021-08.
I
I'll make a
we-
motion. Yeah,
I move we
Go ahead,
approve.
Nina.
Thank you. I move we approve resolution 2021-08.
second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any public comment on this, Liz?
No, sir.
Okay, roll call vote.
Commissioner Donnie Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Nina Forsyth,
Yes.
Commissioner Kevin Grove,
Yes.
Commissioner Adam Ritchie,
Yes.
and Mayor Robert Flanagan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
The next item is regarding the furniture and miscellaneous office items that will not be moved into the new municipal center. These would be located currently at 59 East Main Street and or the temporary police station on campus. What is left over and in a condition to be saleable would be sellable. I don't know. Those items would be moved to 59 East Main Street, and we would have a sale, not really just looking to dispose of or sell as much furniture as possible that can be reused rather than taken to the landfill. There's probably some things that people like. I have a really nice green military surplus file cabinet in my office that I'm fond of, but it just won't match up at the new building. So anyway, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion second to approve resolution 2021-09.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-09.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any public comment?
No, sir.
Storage Wars doesn't want to come and film us live or something?
They might. We'll find out.
Okay, roll call when you're ready.
Commissioner Donnie Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Nina Forsyth,
Yes.
Commissioner Kevin Grove,
Yes.
Commissioner Adam Ritchie,
Yes.
and Mayor Robert Flanagan.
Yes.
Okay.
When will we start advertising this?
Probably, I'd say early in April, because I expect the sale will be early in May.
Okay.
So, when I have to get my thoughts on paper in terms of how it'll all work, and then
Okay.
we'll get the ad together.
Frostburg's biggest sidewalk sale is about to happen.
Yeah. There's an
Skip
old
Holly's
there are a few random things that might have some value. There's an old wringer washer in the basement of City Hall and some things like that.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, an odd antique to have, but we do.
How would that get in a bank? What would you have a wringer washer for? It's like,
That-
wait, no, never mind.
That's how they did the
They,
money
they were
laundering.
they were laundering the money.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just let it there, folks. Let it there.
Yeah, so I will work to have a draft ad early April and make sure it's advertised by, let's say, the second week of April.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay. The next one I also discussed with you at the work session regarding the Legion Memorial Park, or the area in front of Mountain Ridge High School where there's the Veterans Monument, the flag poles, but it's also where the city places its Christmas tree each year. In 2018, the Legion had requested city's assistance with the utility bill. It happened once and didn't happen again, and the Legion did reach out to me again. You know, just knowing that they have a lot of needs to take care of their own building, and that is kind of an entryway into town and something a lot of people see. My suggestion was to transfer that electric account into the city's name, probably $250 to $300 a year. So at work session, that seemed to be a concept agreeable to you all. So this resolution would authorize us to transfer that electric account. So if there's any questions, again, I'll answer them, but I'd ask for a motion in a second for resolution 2021-10.
I move we adopt resolution 2021-10.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Was there any comment?
No, sir.
Okay. Roll call when you're ready.
Commissioner Donnie Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Nina Forsyth,
Yes.
Commissioner Kevin Grove,
Yes.
Commissioner Adam Ritchie,
Yes.
and Mayor Robert Flanagan.
Yes, let's keep the lights on. Yes.
The last resolution for you regards a cell phone use, electronic communications, and IT policy. This would apply to city employees. Chief Costello and I worked on this a little bit more with the city attorney since last week, but we feel that it's a very fair policy that isn't overly harsh to employees, but also puts everything in there to protect the city from any malicious intent or safeguards it if the city or if an employee just acted out using a city cell phone, city email, or the city internet network. This would replace the current IT policy that is in the personnel manual that dates to 2006, which is before smartphones existed, I think. And so it's just a much needed update. So if there's any questions, Nick or I would be happy to answer them, but I'd ask for a motion and a second for resolution 2021-11.
I understand that one of the main impeti for it was that we are providing city employees who need them with city cell phones so that they're not having to use their personal cell phones for city business.
That is,
okay.
Yeah, that is correct in terms of timing. Why this, I'm asking for this now. I have my hands full, but yeah, we want to move forward with the transition from cell phone stipends to city issued cell phones to just keep the separation from work and personal a little cleaner.
Yeah, you need those clean lines.
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-11.
Second.
Well, that was
Moved and seconded multiple times. Any public comment on the telephone?
no, sir.
Okay. Roll call when you're ready.
Commissioner Donnie Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Nina Forsyth,
Yes.
Commissioner Kevin Grove,
Yes.
Commissioner Adam Ritchie,
Yes.
and Mayor Robert Flanagan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now. All right, moving right along. Nick, we're moving right along to you. You want to give your report to us?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Good evening, everyone. I have the report for the police department for the month of February 2021. We had 696 incidents compared to 694 in February of 2020. So just about right on par from this time last year. As you glance down through, you can see that we had 11 arrests of various types. We had 123 parking violations, a number of well-being checks, emergency petitions, other agency assists, follow-ups, and just kind of a variety of activity. So Since I last reported to you, we've had a couple of serious incidents. I thought I'd just give you a couple of brief updates on that. We had a fatal pedestrian crash, tragically on West Main Street near Armstrong Avenue. There's still some investigative work to do on that, so we're waiting for some information from the medical records, medical examiner's office, and some of those things before we complete that. But we have reviewed it at this point with the state's attorney and are primarily waiting for that additional information. We had the runaway tractor trailer, which was a truly frightening incident. Fortunately, we were very, very lucky that no one was injured. The state police commercial vehicle enforcement folks issued the driver several traffic citations. We're still waiting on some additional information from the crash reconstructionists, and we got a lot of information from the state police with regard to the truck and the mechanical aspects of that. So we should have that wrapped up pretty soon, and we plan to issue an updated press release at the request of the newspaper with further information. We had a serious stabbing incident on Mechanic Street. An individual was stabbed in the abdomen during a disturbance at the residence. Very serious injuries initially, but the victim survived, and C3I came up to do the follow-up investigation on that. So still some work to do there, but we made an arrest that night very quickly of the suspect. So we took him into custody, and still some follow-up work to do from there. And of course, you probably saw most recently, just about a week ago, we had a home invasion robbery incident on Maple Street. We do believe that was a targeted, specific incident among people that were at least somewhat known to one another or connected. We don't think there's cause for public alarm in terms of a random incident. The C3I unit conducted the follow-up investigation. We did the initial response. They did the follow-up. Your own detective, Dan Zarger, did that, our Frostburg City investigator. He was the lead investigator. Of course, everybody in the unit contributes, but he did a wonderful job with leading the follow-up and managing the case. Yesterday morning early, we executed several search warrants in Frostburg for the suspects' residences and vehicles, and we and C3I made several arrests in that case. I think we have all the suspects arrested at this point. So unfortunate incident, but excellent investigative work by Dan Zarger and C3I, and just a great partnership and great teamwork with our uniformed officers. So that came together really well on that end. Just a few quick positive notes. We're doing our grant activities again. We've had the vaccination disseminated through the police department, and our policing is getting more and more back to normal. And of course, as you've seen, things are pretty lively as well. So we're doing the Maryland State Highway impaired driving enforcement grant again. So we did that last Friday. We made one DUI arrest and found multiple traffic violations there. We're still doing the SRO grant school patrols. As school goes back into full session next week, we'll expand the times on that. That's been a very, very positive program. I was really happy to hear from our SRO that with a lot of the police discussion in Annapolis and in the legislature, there was a lot of concern about the SRO programs being eliminated. For us, it's been exceptionally positive. We have had good relationships with our schools. It's enhanced security dramatically. Quite often, if there is any kind of threat or risk that students catch wind of, they have typically told our SRO that information. They've had such good rapport, they go straight to the police officer. I mean, it's been a really good program. So what I was happy to hear about was that some of the folks in the schools were telling our SRO, hey, we're really worried. I mean, are you going to be out of the school? Is this program going to be over? We're worried about these things that we see in the legislature. So I thought that was very positive. And at this point, it seems like that program will continue. And I also hope the grant funding continues. That's been an exceptional way to increase our presence. So, and last thing, we're doing our prescription take back program again. We'll be doing that through the end of May in various forms. We're doing home pickup on Thursdays right now. So if you know anyone, it helps us and helps the program if we get a call to do a pickup. So please, if you would share that, we'd certainly appreciate it. And lastly, I'd like to congratulate Rob Shoemake on his appointment and look forward to seeing and working with you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. That would conclude my report. I'm glad to answer any questions you may have or elaborate further.
I have a question, Nick. That home invasion on Maple, that's a separate thing from somebody. There was like a car break-in on Maple as well, right?
Yeah, I believe that was separate. I'll have to double check, but I don't recall any connection to that case there.
Okay. And that's still a mystery. I don't think that person has been located.
Yeah, I will double check into that for sure. But I think over the last couple of weeks, we have had a few vehicles tampered with and entered into. As always, sometimes we've been very successful solving it. If we recover stolen property or we find somebody in the act, often we can connect them to past reports that we have on file. But I always encourage good crime prevention measures. I would strongly encourage people not to leave valuables in vehicles, not to leave vehicles unlocked, and those sorts of things, because quite often, the criminals involved in that type of activity are opportunistic. They're not professional criminals, and a lot of them will literally walk up the street and pull on doorknobs until one opens up. So not always, but I strongly encourage that, and I'll look into that and make sure I'm giving you accurate information. But I don't think there's any connection between the two.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
I'd just like to please pass on. I know you had a good turnout for the search warrant yesterday from folks that were off duty. So again, I know that our morale is at a very good point right now, and we certainly support you and your efforts and all our troops. So please pass that on to them. Okay.
Yes, sir. That means a lot to hear. Thank you. Thanks to all of you for your continued support. Yeah, I wanted to mention that too, just briefly. That was an inherently dangerous operation. I mean, you had multiple search warrants at the same time. It was necessarily dangerous, going after armed and dangerous people. I mean, criminals who had invaded someone's home and robbed them at gunpoint. And it was just, we put out the message to the department, hey, we could use some help. C3I would like some help from us. And it's also a good experience for some of our officers to do those things. And I was thinking, we would get a nice turnout, but we had an exceptional turnout. Dedication to duty there.
Very good. Very good. Chief, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Was there any public comment on anything tonight, Liz?
No, sir. I've checked and double checked.
We're really popular. Folks, I don't know if they're going to renew us for next year. The contract's waning. Does anybody else have anything? I know we have, they said, as Elaine said about the constant EO, we'll handle that in April. We have the program in the morning. Somerset Trust. Yeah. Okay. So if anyone you can make that would be very good.
Let's hope it doesn't snow.
Yep. Well, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. It's not that chilly. I think we'll be all right. Unless they bring it from Somerset with them.
Oh dear. As far as the meeting that will be in person next month, are people who don't want to show up in person still able to submit comments like via telephone or something?
They would, if they don't have internet access and do not want to come to the meeting, the fail-safe way would be to submit the comments in writing, and that I could read them into the record for you.
Could they do the thing again where they supply their phone number and you could call them at the appropriate time or something like that?
I think so. I'm just trying to think of how I think it would entail me calling them from my cell phone and me putting my cell phone on speaker near a microphone is the only way I'd be able to do that.
Okay.
So, yes. But it might be a little hokey.
Yeah, right.
So.
We will still practice social distancing.
Yeah. How do you break yourself of all this technology?
If it would be okay if I could say another quick word. The nice thing about the virtual meetings is I can look at the computer system right beside me. There were several tamperings the night of March 6th into March 7th. No suspect identified yet, but they don't appear to be connected to the home invasion robbery.
And they were attempted. They didn't actually get into the vehicles?
Well, we had one report initially that someone did get inside and do a little bit of vandalism in a vehicle on Maple Street, but then throughout the following day, Sunday, we had additional reports of tamperings. So several were entered, but nothing stolen. You know, people get in and rummage to see what they can find. So it did appear they were entered, but probably all unlocked.
Right. Lock your
Thank you.
doors.
Yeah. Don't keep valuables in there.
All right. Everyone else good?
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, everybody have a good evening. Be careful, and we will all chat soon.